And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Dice Throne Season 2. Now, about a year ago, Melody and I reviewed Dice Throne Season 1. I enjoyed this dice versus dice game. This game hasn't changed. It's still the exact same game, except there are now 8 different characters. You can buy some of them in 1 versus 1 packs. This is a box that has all 8 of them inside it. So if you want to know how the game works itself, go check out my original review. In this review, I'm just going to be talking particularly about the 8 new characters, and then my thoughts on the system as a whole. Here we go. We're going to go through each of the characters. Here is my favorite character of this set. That is the Gunslinger. The Gunslinger has a quick draw, which gives him reload. Every turn she gets one of these, and you can spend these to roll a die and do half of that die, adding it to attack damage. And you can upgrade the quick draw to get an extra re-roll. There's different cards that let you roll it and do extra damage to it. There's also cards that let you just roll a die and something happens to another player, which I like. Also, the Gunslinger has several ways to get evasive, which is pretty cool because essentially you can spend this token, you roll a die on a 1 or 2, the attack completely misses you, which could be amazing. She also has duel when she's attacked, not really defensive, well it is defensive. She and the other person rolls a die, and if she has a higher roll, so slightly less than even, she can do 3 damage or prevent half the damage, which is pretty cool. Although it can upgrade to that she'll also win on a tie. I also like how several of the different things that she has will give her more abilities in the game. So you get Deadeye and Enforcer, Fan the Hammer, Pistol Whip, Take Cover, and Mark the Target. Lots of options. She's a really fun character to play. Now, realizing that I like pretty much every character in this game, this is probably my least favorite of the new ones, although it looks really cool. The Samurai, who's all about honor and shame. Honor tokens, you can get those tokens and basically spend those to increase your attack damage. Shame tokens, which the Samurai can get sometimes, but mostly you can give them to your opponent and they will lose damage. They will reduce the damage they do to you. And then Backstrike, where you can add half a die damage to it. So the Samurai has a pretty interesting defense thing where you can roll and you can block a lot of damage, but if you don't roll any helmets or suns, you get shame yourself. And the Samurai, if they roll less than 3 times, will get this honor. So it's an interesting thing. And of course, they also can upgrade their stuff and have more things. And like their Katana Slice here, if you roll 4 of a kind when doing a Katana Slice, you'll also inflict shame. Or they can just give an opponent shame, shame on you, or here, inflict shame on the follow through, or just you're honorable, so you get honor tokens. They're a very basic character, and I think some people will like them a lot. Then we have the Tactician. Tactician, I guess he doesn't do his own fighting, he sends other people to fight for him. Tactician is one of my favorite characters of this set because he gets these tactical advantage tokens, and several of the rules will give these to you. You can spend these for a variety of things. To give you a combat point, to let you re-roll a die, you can spend 3 of them to draw a card, to put targeted on someone else, which gives +2 damage, to give protect to yourself, which you can spend to take only half damage. 4 of them can be spent to transfer a status effect from one person to another. He does some damage, not as strong as the other players, although his exploit's pretty powerful. And again, he has different ways to upgrade. And has a Profiteer, which is a really fun one for me. This is the Profiteer 2, where you get 2 tactical advantage and roll a die, which is a possibility to get 3 more, do 6 damage, or draw a card, and then go again. This is crazy cool. I really like that one. He also has cards that let him do things and inflict Constrict, which essentially means your opponent gets 1 fewer roll when they're going. So I really like his abilities, and I like the different advantages that the tactical advantage tokens give you. It's just fun to be able to spend those to do extra powers, essentially. Huntress is interesting. She has 4 symbols on her dice rather than the 3, and also comes with Naira. Naira is going to start with some hit points, and Naira, when Huntress is attacked, she can transfer hit points to Naira. Naira can be taken out. I mean, basically, Naira can take all the damage, and Naira can be taken out, but slowly Naira will heal up and then come back. You know, and there's cards that will lets you bring her back quickly. There's also cards that, here it heals her much more quickly. Here you get a bond where you can spread the hit points out, Savage Slash, and Prowl. And that's basically what she does. She's a pretty cool maternal bond defensive thing. It's only 3 dice, but it will heal Naira, and if Naira's active, do more damage. So basically, that's how this works. Some of the things will heal. She also can do bleed. You put these tokens on your opponents. They have to roll a die each turn, which might cause them more damage. And so it's like a 2-pronged attack. Your opponent's going to get frustrated with this tiger. They'll cheer when Naira's down, but that doesn't mean that Naira's out for the whole round. The Cursed Pirate is one of the most interesting characters because in her deck, there are no upgrade cards to any of her abilities here. That's because she has these Cursed Doubloons here. And there are abilities that can make you gain them, lose them. You'll lose one at the beginning of each turn. If you lose them all, you turn her over, and now she becomes the Cursed Pirate with completely different abilities. Now, the abilities are slightly stronger, but also she takes 4 damage every upkeep phase when she's the Cursed Pirate. So this is really kind of fascinating, when to flip her. You want to flip her near the end of the game maybe, or maybe you never want to flip her at all. She also has these powder kegs, which are really fun because they can blow up in someone's face, doing damage, 3 damage to somebody, but they can be passed back and forth to each other. I like grenade things like that. And she also has Wither, which can make someone reduce their damage, and of course the Cursed Doubloons themselves. Then there's Cursed Cards, draw a card or take more damage to draw more. Not a huge fan of stuff like that, but I do like the powder kegs a lot, and I do like the flipping. It's a really neat mechanism. Then we have the Artificer. Now this is one of the more complicated ones to play because there are these nanites here where you can put on the other player and you can basically blow them up and do damage to them. But more importantly, you'll get Synth in this game. And Synth is basically going to let you build bots. There are 3 different bots that you can build. A basic bot, I'm sorry, not basic bot, they're all basic or advanced. You can upgrade them. You have the Nanobot, the Shock Bot, and the Heal Bot. The Heal Bot heals you. Shock Bot attacks your opponent, and the Nanobot can do basically detonate the nanites that you're doing to your opponent. So you're going to spend these. So as you're playing the different abilities and you're going to get this synth, you have to figure out how to spend it. If you spend it, the upgraded ones can use their abilities for 2, but once you make them to the advanced side, they only spend 1 synth to use their abilities. And you can use these synth abilities to keep yourself alive and to attack your opponent. And then you have cards also that kind of work on this, the Nanite Assault. And also a Scrap Collector, you're going to get one of these synth every turn, and you can always spend 4 synth to put a nanite on your opponent. And you get synth basically whenever you do defensive rolls and put nanites on the person. However, this leaves you fairly vulnerable. You can take a lot of damage from the other players, so you need to keep that in mind also. Honestly, the Seraph can be one of the most powerful characters in the game, mostly due to her amazing status effects. I mean, Flight itself, where you can roll a die, and if you roll a 6, you roll 2 dice. If you roll a 6, you can make her attack undefendable, or she can avoid an attack with Flight. Blinding Light put on your other players, which means your attack might not work. Cleansing, you can get rid of other status effects. You also have these, she has the coolest looking status effects, Holy Presence and Blessings of Divinity. And she's also really good with teams. Like, she has a chance to heal a teammate with some of her stuff. Her defense roll is probably the weakest of all the rolls, maybe. And she also has 4 symbols, another character with 4 different symbols. But giving another player in your team Flight if you want to, helping them out, healing them with the Purify. So if you're playing with teams 2 versus 2, she's definitely powerful in that regard. But she's pretty straight up powerful in her own right, the Seraph. And finally, we have the Evil Vampire Lord. All right, so you figure that she's going to be using blood, and you'd be correct. She has blood tokens, which are very similar to the Tactician, actually, where she can spend those to do various things. Kind of like that, although I like the Tactician more because he has more options and because he's not so gross as the Vampire Lady. She also has Bleed, Mesmerize. It's her powerful abilities, really, that make her what she is. She's one of the most interesting, superpowers here, where she gets 2 blood power, do 10 damage, and search her deck for any card. That's pretty neat to get something like that. And she has ways to get, like this one here, Consume Blood. Take 2 blood power, then she can spend blood power to gain combat points. You get a whole ton of combat points if you want to. And doing more damage for how much bleed you've given to your opponent. So a lot of cool things here. She can heal, gain 3 blood power with this, do a lot of damage. She gets a lot of her bleed, that the blood power tokens are, you get them all over the place here. So It's a little bit similar to the tactician, but also that whole, hey, I hurt you, which helps me heal myself aspect going on. Now, there are games with good components, and then there are games with great components, and very rarely would I ever say a game has an A+ 100%, but this game definitely does. It is unbelievably put together. The rulebook, simple, easy, very clear to understand, and fits right in here. You take one of these trays, which by the way, it's marked where they each go. So let's take a look here at the Samurai, mostly because I think the Samurai is the coolest components. These trays, which you snap off the top of them. Here's the board, but it folds up to show that character, which is pretty neat. Unfolds. It comes with another sheet here that tells you what all your stats do, shows you the size of your dice, gives you some frequently asked questions, tells you anything that you start up with, and what component should be in here. Then inside here you have the different tokens. You have the dice. Again, I'm showing the Samurai because they have the coolest dice in the game, in my opinion. The dice are extremely high quality. Now, the game doesn't necessarily come with card sleeves. I have card sleeves on mine. You don't need them. But if you go outside the card sleeves, still good quality on the cards. They work really well. Easy to see what they do. Very understandable. They fit in here. You have a nice 2 different dials, one for hit points, one for combat points. Each work really well, and everything fits nicely. And then there's a turn order card for every character in the game. So if you know, just for reference purposes. When you're done, you just pack it all up in here, put it like this, pop the lid on, slide it in. It is fantastic. Really like the components. Now, I liked Dice Throne when I first played it, and it's interesting as you have these new characters like, ooh, are the characters going to be better? Well, I'll tell you what, the production is definitely better in the new setup. It just is, right? The new characters are, I mean, the old production was great, but the new production, top notch. However, the characters are balanced, and they work well. You can play the old ones versus the new ones. That's not a problem at all. And the deal is, as I played through these characters, and I played either with or against every character in this set, I gotta say, my ranking of Dice Throne as general is just going up. I used to be, I was like, hey, it was approved, now it's excellent. Though the game is simple, and the game is lucky. It's essentially a Yahtzee or King of Tokyo 1 versus 1 game. Well, I guess you can play 2 versus 2. But that whole aspect and how each character has a very distinct, different feel, I really love some of these new characters. A quick rating of them. My favorite is the Gunslinger, like I said. Probably the Tactician is my second, with the Huntress as my third. Then the Artificer, Seraph, Cursed Pirate. Man, they like all run around there. The Samurai and the Vampire are my 2 least favorites. But even then, I'll gladly play with them. I'll play with any of the characters in this set. And it's quick. We're talking 30-minute games. You get to roll a dice. These characters feel distinctly different from each other and from the original set. And yet at the same time, like, ooh, let's put them together. The archetypes that work in here. The artwork is fantastic. Amazing artwork. This is what fantasy art should look like. Just great all around. Fantastic. If you want a great 1 versus 1 player game, and again, I know that a lot of people say you can play 2 versus 2, but it's, even though you can do that, it's just like any other game, Magic the Gathering, Summoner Wars, whatever. Yes, you can play 2 versus 2, but this game shines best at 1 versus 1, and if you're looking for that, this is one of the best. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!